Welcome back to the G Life. This is G here. I thought I'd share a little bit about my journey financially since I've been abroad and how I did things a little bit differently. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to learn some secrets about financing your life when you are abroad. If you don't know already, I live in Italy. I've been living in Italy now for about 4 years, maybe 4.5, something like that. So I've been in Italy for about 4 years, but I have been abroad. For a little over 6 years now. And I've lived now in Guatemala, France, and Italy. So when I got started, are you coming? We have on blue, we're matching. When I first left the United States, the thing that, I'm gonna be honest, I was not really as prepared as I should have been. And now, having been abroad, I would have done things way, way differently. There's so many mistakes I made and things I should have done different financially that yeah, I fucked up a little bit every now and then, but I've survived, and I thought I'd share some things with you. So the first thing, when I left the United States, I didn't really have a huge plan financially of how I was going to finance myself. I didn't really think about it. Oh, really? Can mama come see in a few minutes?
No.
Oh. Mama's gonna make a video and then I'm gonna come see.
No.
Yes, I'll be there in a few minutes, I promise. I want to see it jump. Okay. When I first left the United States, the first stop I made was to Guatemala. And I wasn't working, I didn't go there for a job. I actually went and started house sitting. So this is an interesting way to live somewhere basically for free. And there was a plan in the sense that when I went to Guatemala, I was with someone, and the plan was to go to France. And the reason we went to Guatemala first was because the flat in France wasn't ready. So we didn't want to stay in the US. I wasn't working. I had lost my job. And y'all don't want to go outside? I had lost my job. I wasn't working. And I was a little in this place emotionally from a lot of personal things that had been going on that, I don't know. I think maybe if I was in a different space, I would have made different decisions. But my first thing was I did not want to continue to pay my mortgage and have to, basically spend my savings on trying to maintain my lifestyle. So we decided we were going to move abroad. And Guatemala was our first stop because we were waiting for the flat in France to become ready. And basically, Guatemala wasn't even a plan. It wasn't like, I was like, let's just go to Guatemala. What I decided was I would find a place where I could live for free, and that's where I'll go. And that's it. So Guatemala just happened to be the place where I found a home that needed house sitters. And the time span that the person needed someone to stay in the house fit really well with the amount of time I needed to be away from my place and before I could go to France. So I went to Guatemala. And if you've never heard of house sitting, there's lots of different ways you can do it. But generally, what you do is agree to take care of someone's house, someone's pets, someone's something for a period of time, and in exchange, you get to live in their house. And I lived in a really, really beautiful place in Guatemala, and on the side of like, I think it was it was like on the side of a volcano, surrounded by water. It was very rural, but it was beautiful. I lived there for free. I really wish I had started my YouTube channel then, but here we are. It was really, really interesting experience. So I lived there for a year, basically rent-free, taking care of a cat and sometimes a dog and the garden. And that was really it. I mean, my time was for myself, and it was really nice in that respect. So there were other things that happened, and that was a whole nother story, but I lived there for free for a year. I rented my property in the United States, so living there for free allowed me to save some rental income and to try and figure some things out, which I didn't really do a good job of figuring things out either, but that was the first step. Now, I mentioned income, rental income. So I did have money coming in on a monthly basis, but there are also expenses. So whenever you decide to start doing something like renting property, you have to look at the balance. You know, if you still have a mortgage or something like this, then you have to look at like what you really need to live on when you're abroad. So that's what I started with. Then I went to France, all right? Now, I stayed in Guatemala for a year, went to France, and there's lots of different lifestyle differences from Guatemala to Paris. And I was ready for that, like no problems with the lifestyle differences, but oh, kind of quiet. So basically, when I went to France, my income was the rental income that I had. And even now here in Italy, I still have my property, and I'm actually working on growing my business. So if you have rental property, like I said, if you have property, that is income. That in and of itself can potentially help fund your trips, your lifestyle abroad. Now, of course, it depends a lot on what you can rent your place for. I have a place in the city, so it worked out well for me. And I've changed my business model since I have been here in Italy. I was doing traditional renting, and now I'm doing short-term rentals. So that's a whole different aspect of what you can do. And I am managing it from here myself. And there are difficulties in that. And I'll probably do a video simply talking about doing short-term rentals and some of the challenges I have, but that's a whole nother story. So there's that. So already have a source of income from my rental property. I had some savings. And even though I didn't plan very well how I should be doing this, luckily I had these things that helped me not completely starve to death. Well, and of course now I'm partnered, so he ain't gonna let me starve, y'all. But there is the beginning of how you need to start thinking about like what alternative ways, because not everybody goes abroad is rich and needs no income. So since I have been here, I have done small jobs, very small jobs, probably nothing that would really affect lifestyle, but it's something you can consider when you move and have to continue to work. Now, a lot of times if you have to work, you need to apply for those visas before you leave your country. So if I had come here and planned on teaching English or working and something, you have to already have your work visas in most instances, unless you're specialized and you're a doctor or a very fancy engineer or something, where people would be, or a country or company might be interested in your skill set and sponsor you. And that's, I mean, I don't have those kind of skills. I'm a yoga instructor. I did work a corporate job, but don't nobody care about that here before. So that's a whole another thing. But you have to think what else you can do alternatively to help you earn some income. Ultimately, when I came here to Italy, and if you watched my other video, you know it was kind of not a super huge plan that I knew I was coming to Italy. I did think I'd be in France, and when I decided that my life would be on my own in France, I knew I was going to have to try and figure out a proper job, but to afford the lifestyle that I would want. But before all that happened, I met someone and I moved to Italy. So here we are. And when I first came to Italy, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how things were going to work out. So I taught English as a tutor. And you can do that. Now, there's different ways you can teach English all over the world. And you can get like a special teaching kind of certificate. A lot of places want you to have that if you want to do a traditional school or something like that. I don't have those things. So I was doing tutoring, and I was getting paid about 20 euros an hour. I was getting paid 20 euros an hour, which is decent amount of money to do most things, right? But I didn't do that full time. I was just kind of, a couple hours here and there during the week. So that was one way. I also taught yoga, private students, things like that. So you gotta get a little hustle, basically, I think, if you want to live a certain lifestyle, you have to sometimes have a bit of hustle in you. So there it is. Find a way to live as cheaply as possible. And the thing is, house sitting is something you can do all over the world. If you want to consider Europe or other places to test things, I think it's a great way to kind of test a place before you rent something. So there's websites in OAPME. So if you want to know specifically what websites I use, let me know and I can tell you individually. Or if enough people want to know, I will put it in the description. But it's something you can do anywhere for lots of time, and you can align yourself to travel and house sit for free. I think it's a nice way to consider living abroad. I mean, someone has to choose you, right? And the more experience you have doing it, the more likely people are going to choose you. But I didn't have any experience, and I managed to find a place that for like a year. And it turned out okay. That's a whole nother. If you guys want to hear the house sitting stories, and I can do videos and pictures, it was with my ex. The ex was the problem. The house sitting was great. But yeah, the same thing that happened in Paris. The ex was the problem. Paris was perfect. When you get ready to live abroad, if you do not have a specific career plan for when you move abroad, then it's definitely something you have to do is hustle. So you have to open yourself up to new opportunities and new things that you might not have thought. You have to open yourself up to things that you might not have thought you do. So, I mean, when I was in Paris, I tried to bartend and bar back, and apparently I was very slow. But it was a decent thing to do for a little while, and I tried it, and I learned what I suck at as well. I taught English here in Italy. I've, taught yoga in studio as well as private clients. So you have to really figure out like different ways to do things. And when something clicks, you know, it'll flow. For me, the yoga was definitely something that helped, that was a bit more consistent, as well as teaching English. Tutoring was more consistent. But once I started to build a base for yoga students, that definitely was something that was better for me. So those are just a few tidbits about thinking about moving abroad. Now, I didn't say this, and I should say, you can't just go get a job. You have to have a visa. For me, like teaching yoga, I didn't have a visa because associated with these things, because I was getting paid directly in cash. So if you're working for a company or if you wanted to start a business, those are two different things that you have to consider when you're abroad. So if you wanted to expand, have a building, you know, all of these things, you got to have your papers in order. You can't just do things on the fly and assume that everyone's going to want to work with you under the table, because it's not the way it works. Especially if you have to rent a place, you have to have all kinds of documentation. So it does get complicated if you just come on your own and you don't have your paperwork in order. So I haven't been completely on my own, in the sense that my visas are associated with family. And because the children and my partner and all that are my family. So I'm able to work because I'm a resident and I have family. If I wanted to get a regular job, like in a shop or something, I could totally do that. But right now, what I'm doing for myself is working on expanding my rental business. And I'm gonna make a whole separate video about managing property while you're abroad as well, and growing my business. So subscribe to the channel. I have so much things happening in my life to share with you, and look forward to sharing with you. Do you hear the silence? I want to give a bravo to Papa Bear for somehow getting the kids to be not screaming right now. So yeah, subscribe to the channel. I share lots of things here. I hadn't posted in a while, but I was rebranding, and now I am back to share and chat and eventually also do yoga. If you go to my Instagram, the silence never lasts long. If you go to my Instagram, I post little tidbits with the kids and yoga and different things that you can do. So look for the G Life on Instagram as well. Subscribe to the channel. Ciao, ciao for now.